fines. It just becomes part of the official record for Donald Trump. Now, in court today, my colleague Morgan McKay was in court, and she was sending information to us saying that inside the courthouse, inside that courtroom there, that Donald Trump was leaning in and he was listening intently to the judge. He was also listening as prosecutor spoke. And then Trump had the opportunity to speak as well. And he said, quote, "This has been a very terrible experience and a setback for the New York court system." He says the payment that he made to his former fixer, Michael Cohen, the $130,000 that Cohen had paid to Stormy Daniels and then Trump reimbursed him for, Trump continues to say it was only a legal expense, that he never did anything wrong, he did not break the law. He goes on to say what he has said many times in the past. He called this a political witch hunt to try and keep him from running for the election again this time around. He said they tried to prevent him from doing that. They tried to prevent him from winning. He said it was just a political witch hunt. And in the end, it did not work because he won the election in November. He said that the people of America understand what happened here and that, quote, "I was treated very, very unfairly." Now, Donald Trump and his legal team, they had their political strategy is they tried to stretch this out as long as possible. They kept delaying this case and delaying this case and delaying this case in the hope that it would get delayed beyond the point from when he is going to be inaugurated on January 20th. And then the case would have basically gone away until his term was over 4 years from now. That strategy in the end did not work because it got him to this day today, and he ended up getting sentenced. Now, it was early on Wednesday morning that his legal team had appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene on his behalf, saying that he was protected by presidential immunity and that any actions he took would be protected because that's what the U.S. Supreme Court ruled back in July, that presidents enjoy the benefit of presidential immunity. However, the prosecutors in this case, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, they have maintained all along that he does not enjoy presidential immunity. And the reason is most of the activity happened before he became president. It happened during the campaign. So at this stage, I'm going to try and put my IFB back in here. Bianca, can you hear me now? Can you talk to me for a moment so I know that I can hear you?
Yep, can totally hear you.
Okay,
Thanks
great.
for breaking
Thank
that down
you.
for us.
Okay, good. And I have Morgan McKay here now. Thanks, Danny. Go ahead, put that on. Just do it. I have my colleague Morgan McKay here. Morgan, come on in. Now, Morgan, you were in the, and thanks for racing down so quickly. I know it's been crazy inside. Yeah. So you were inside the courtroom. He was not here physically. He was here virtually. So you guys were watching him on a monitor. But do me a favor. Talk to me about his demeanor, because I know at one point you said he was really leaning in, listening intently.
Exactly. Now, he walked inside, the judge walked inside, and when he sat down on the bench, that's when we saw President-elect Donald Trump sitting in a window screen on both monitors at the front of the courtroom and then in front of the benches of both lawyers. Now, the judge kicked off remarks, welcoming everybody. Then prosecutors took their turn, and they outlined just the intensity of this case. And they also said that, they must be mindful that Trump is going to be sworn in as president, but they say that his actions before, during, and after the trial really eroded the trust in the justice system. And they said that if there was any other defendant, they might be asking for a little bit of a harsher sentence. But they say because he is set to take office, that they understand that the only sentencing that makes sense is unconditional discharge. Then the judge gave Todd Blanche, Trump's lawyer, a chance to speak. And Blanche really said that this case is very inappropriate. He said it was only brought forward once Trump made it clear that he was planning to run for president. And he said the only sentence that would make sense is unconditional discharge, although they disagree that any sentencing would be making sense. And they also confirmed that they will be appealing this. And then the judge gave Trump a chance to speak, and he said that he was persecuted throughout this entire trial. He called it a witch hunt. He said he referenced a gag order that he was under, prohibiting him from being able to talk about the case, and was just very upset about that as well. And he said that they are going to be appealing, but he was just very disappointed about how everything was handled by prosecutors and everyone involved.
Okay, now, when Trump was talking, did he appear angry? Did he appear belligerent? Or was he more humble in his speaking?
Well, and so that was one of the things prosecutors brought up, was that Trump hasn't shown, they said, any remorse for his actions. Now, Trump, he wasn't, as we've seen him sometimes, a little more animated, a little more frustrated. He was pretty even-toned. You could tell he was obviously still frustrated to be there. He was leaning forward, and he was actually leaning forward throughout the entire thing. And when he was speaking, he was also leaning forward, and he was just very clear that, this was very unfair to him, and he spoke about how this case was only brought forward after many prosecutors turned down bringing forward this case. And he said that the only reason that District Attorney Alvin Bragg brought this forward was because he made a campaign promise. Now, the judge, he called it the whole trial, a paradox. He said outside there were protesters, and inside, though, when the door was closed, Trump was just like any other criminal defendant that he has handled in the past. And he said that under the law, he is required to sentence Trump. And he said that in one power that Trump's presidential office does not have is the ability to erase a jury's verdict. He also mentioned briefly, and I heard you talking about it earlier, is that presidential immunity ruling by the Supreme Court. And that is something that they had to take into account and why they had to delay sentencing for so long. But he said he looked at all of it, and he said it didn't change the fact that a jury had found Trump guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records in an effort to influence the 2016 presidential election.
And try to cover up the payment so that it would not have any type of negative effect on him while he was running for president. The other thing, too,
Exactly.
you're talking about the Manhattan DA's office. Alvin Bragg, prosecutors again, and you just alluded to this, is that they made the point of saying that the jury was, quote, unanimous and decisive, and that must be respected, that you can't go ahead and just throw out the entire case, and that the president does not enjoy presidential immunity in this case because the actions that he took, that he was convicted of, happened before he was inaugurated in 2016.
Exactly. And but Trump's lawyers have been arguing that some of the witness testimony that was used during the trial, some of the evidence that was used during the trial was during the time that Trump was in office. So they said that should mean that the entire case would be thrown out. But prosecutors argued that there was a lot more to the case than just the couple of tidbits of information. There were some emails. There was also some people that were with Trump in office that were testifying as well. And so they said that all of that together, that didn't account for the entirety of their case that they brought forward, and which Trump was ultimately convicted for.
Right, and in court today, and you heard this firsthand again because Morgan was inside the courtroom watching all of this happen, and again, the president appearing virtually, he was not physically here, but that the prosecutor also brought up the point that President-elect Trump has threatened to punish anybody involved in this case. Talk to me about that.
So he did. He said, the prosecutor said that Trump has threatened to punish anyone involved. He said that, Trump has threatened to dismantle certain parts of the justice system. He said that Trump really eroded the trust of the American people in the justice system and was continuously attacking those involved. Trump didn't really go into detail in response when he was speaking about that point. As we've seen on social media, he has made several attempts to threaten at times. Even the judges a law clerk, and that's another thing that prosecutors brought up, was that Trump was found in violation at least 10 times of certain things like his gag order, for example, and before that, which led to the gag order, was because of some of these comments that he was making.
And what was Trump's demeanor when the prosecutor was talking about that, about him threatening people, anybody that's involved with the case, and also the court clerk? And he's also made many negative comments about Judge Juan Merchan himself.
Exactly. He was, again, just when it started, he leaned forward and he just stared very intently at his screen and was just leaning forward. And you could tell his face was just more, looking down at the screen than anything else. But he wasn't super agitated. He wasn't leaning back. During the trial, he would lean back quite a bit. He would cross his arms and he would huff or at certain points.
Right.
But this time around, he was actually very demure. He was very just really focused on what was happening, but not really reacting.
Okay. Bianca, I understand that you have a question. What is it? And I can relay it to Morgan.
Yeah, I think the question actually maybe more so for you, Linda, because just wrapping this up, we know that he's gotten no penalty for this hush money case. However, he still will be the first president that will become a felon in the White House. So what implication does that have, if any, considering the way this previous election just went?
Okay, well, it appears at this point it's not going to have any implication at all. He won the election. The American people knew what he was charged with. They knew that he was convicted in this case, 34 felony counts last May, and apparently they didn't care because they reelected him, and he is going to be inaugurated on January 20th. And again, his legal team tried to stretch this out beyond that inauguration on January 20th, but their legal strategy in this case didn't work.
Appreciate that, Linda. Again, just to wrap this up, as we have to leave right now, no probation, no jail time, and no fires. According to Linda, as she said there, as Trump was not given any penalty for his hush money case, but again, still the first president as a felon entering the White House. We're gonna